Hey, Chris here at HiFi Buys in Atlanta, and I'm very excited today to be talking about one of my favorite products in the store, the 2025 DAC / Preamplifier of the Year, according to the Absolute Sound. This is the Moon 681 Streamer DAC Preamp from Simaudio. So let's dive in and find out what makes this particular unit so special. Coming in at $12,000 US as of time of filming in July 2025, the Moon 681 offers a set of digital inputs and features that really position it as the centerpiece of a great hi-fi system. To start, let's take a look at those inputs. We've got HDMI ARC for a connection to a television. We've got ASEBU. We've got 2 digital coaxial inputs, 2 optical or toslink inputs, as well as a USB-B type input for connecting a computer and a USB-A host type connection for connecting external hard drive or flash drive with music files loaded onto it. For connectivity, we've got a 2-port Ethernet switch, which allows for the connection to your home network, as well as an extension to another piece that may need an Ethernet connection. This is often used for connecting a NAS drive or a Rune server, for example, or even 2 daisy chain connections to other Moon North Series products, which we'll talk about a little later in the video. Also later in the video, we'll mention Moon's optional external power supply, which connects via a dual 4-pin XLR connection, which is available on the 681 as well. On top of that, we've got antennas for both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, which allow for, among other things, connection of the awesome new remote control. For outputs, we've got 2 sets, one balanced, one single-ended, and they can actually be set to variable or fixed independently of each other, which is a really rare feature to see and allows for some connectivity to things like a tape recorder, for example, or to use the unit as a preamplifier, or setting them to fixed if you're just using it as a DAC or streamer. In addition to our physical inputs, we have Moon's Mind network module, which we'll dive into deeper in just a little bit, giving the unit full streaming capability and app control. Now that we've talked about inputs and outputs and what's on the outside of the box, let's take a look at what's on the inside, starting with the DAC section, which Simaudio has called the MDE1 or Moon DAC Engine 1. This is a new design for them in the North Series. They have 3 different levels of this DAC engine. The MDE1, which is found in the 681. Then there's the MDE2, which is found in the 791 preamplifier, and the MDE3, which is found in their flagship 891. And if you want to learn more about the differences between those different engines, let us know in the comments and we'll make videos about those other 2 products as well. In this iteration of MDE, all digital signals coming into the 681 preamp are immediately reclocked and upsampled to 32-bit using an FPGA. The reclocking reduces the jitter of the incoming signal down to the picosecond range, which is, if I'm correct, 1/1,000,000th of a second, making any timing issues essentially inaudible. Lower jitter, as you may know, results oftentimes in an increase in clarity and focus of the stereo image. And I can tell you from experience, this certainly accomplishes that in a pretty spectacular way. The upsampling to 32 bits allows for a really unique approach to volume control that we'll talk about in just a second. Once that FPGA has reclocked and upsampled the signal, it's passed on to the actual DAC chipset, which in the 681, Simaudio has chosen to go with the ES9028 Pro chipset, which is not the top of the line from ES, but very close to it. And again, while there's a lot of focus in the market on which DAC chipset products use, what really separates great products from mediocre ones is the implementation of that chipset and the entire engine that drives that digital to analog conversion. In the case of the 681, Simaudio's really gone above and beyond, including 8 monaural DAC chips in this unit. That's 4 per channel, and because it's fully balanced, that's 2 per phase. And the reason that they do this is because there are, within spec, variations between different chips of the same chipset. And so by using 8, they're able to sum and then take the average of the values of those, minimizing the effects of the variance between different chips. By averaging out those differences, you get even closer to the original analog signal once that conversion has happened, giving you more clarity and more detail than could be accomplished with a single chip. With that chipset, the 681 supports files up to 32-bit and 384 kilohertz, along with quad DSD that's 256 and full MQA decoding. Though the support for those higher resolution formats does vary a bit by input, so if you have questions about how best to take advantage of this in your personal system, definitely give us a call or come by the store anytime. Now, when we call this unit a DAC/preamplifier, that means it's got to have volume control in it. And most DACs implement a digital volume control, which can really mess with the sound quality, especially at lower volumes. Simaudio has built from the ground up a very unique volume control circuit specifically for the 681 that they call MHV, or Moon Hybrid Volume. So let's talk about what makes the Moon Hybrid Volume a hybrid system. It is operating simultaneously in the analog and digital domains. The problem with typical digital volume controls really shows itself at lower volumes, where you have attenuated the signal so much that you've lost a ton of dynamic range and also introduced a lot of artifacts and noise that can really just ruin your listening experience. To combat that, most of the attenuation in the 681 is actually happening in the analog domain, where there are several fixed gain stages that get switched into the signal path depending on what volume you have the 681 set to. Then within each of those fixed gain analog stages, your digital attenuation is only happening with about 11 bits of information, or what is called the least significant bits, that is all happening well below the threshold for human hearing, meaning that no matter what volume you're listening in, you're preserving that dynamic range and the emotionality of the music, and you'll be able to enjoy your digital music really like never before. MHV was designed specifically for the 681, and it is the only product in the Moon line that gives you a lot of the best of both worlds. For one, it's a much cheaper implementation of the volume control than building out a completely analog volume circuit like you would find in the 791 or the 891, which allows them to sell this at the admittedly not cheap price of $12,000, but compared to the 791 and 891, it is a great value, and this MHV circuit is a huge reason that they're able to bring this performance down to this price point. Moving on, let's take a look at the streaming capabilities of the 681. We've got Simaudio's Mind 2 streaming module built into the unit, which is their latest iteration of their Mind streaming platform. This brings Roon-ready capability as well as Tidal Connect and Spotify Connect to the 681, though I was going to say don't use Spotify, but use whatever you want. Who am I to judge? In addition to those Connect type streaming services, Simaudio also has their own app control called appropriately Mind that gives you direct access to high-res streaming services like Tidal, Qobuz, Deezer, and a few others. In addition to the Mind platform, the network connectivity that is part of the 681 and the entire North Series collection has allowed them to redesign and replace their older SimLink communication platform that allows their units to talk between each other. This newer platform is called MoonLink. MoonLink is Simaudio's in-house network-based basic automation platform. It allows for MoonLink products to be grouped as zones and controlled together via the remote control or Mind app, meaning that something like the 641 integrated amplifier, which is a perfect pairing with the 681, but normally doesn't have app control, now can be controlled with the Mind app for things like input selection, power on and off, volume control, and even firmware updates, making the entire North series platform really much more user-friendly. Now let's talk about Alan's favorite, the all-new BRM1 remote control. This is a pretty unique looking remote control, as you can tell. It is Bluetooth and rechargeable. Normally, I don't like rechargeable remotes because I feel like I always have to charge them when I want to use them, but the battery life on the BRM1 is actually very long. I also love the fact that it's a physical knob, so you get that sort of sensation of an analog preamp right from your listening position, and it's a very good knob. As you can see on the screen, it adjusts and has two-way communication with the product that it is controlling the volume of. So you have a volume display that changes instantaneously. In addition to that, you have transport controls via touch buttons around the edge, and with a tap on the screen, you can adjust inputs. It's also really well built. It's heavy, it's a metal top, this sort of heavy rubber bottom, and it's angled. So when it's sitting on the arm of your chair or on your side table, not only is it angled so that you can see the screen, it's also resistant to sliding off the table if you bump it. One of the most satisfying remotes in all of HiFi and among all of the products that I've used over almost 15 years. Being here. Really just a joy to use. Now that our obligatory mention of the very cool remote is done, let's talk about a couple other features that are shared among the entire North Series collection from Simaudio. So the entire North collection features this beautiful two-tone color finish, as well as just exceptional build quality, fully metal chassis with heat sinks down the side. Everything is just beautifully laid out and an incredibly well-built package. If you watched the beginning of the video where we talked about inputs and outputs, you'll remember me talking about the inputs for the external power supply. That would be the Moon 820S external power supply, which is available as an optional upgrade to many of the Moon North Series products, just not the amplifiers, for obvious reasons. Now, admittedly, the power supply built into the 681 is already really good. So the difference that the external power supply upgrade makes is not huge, but it does add an improved sense of solidity and foundation to the bass response, as well as more air and openness to the treble. It's a great option for anyone that wants to take their 681 to the next level, but doesn't want to quite jump all the way up to something like the 791 or 891. And if you decide that you do want to upgrade, Simaudio's got you covered there as well with their Reach for the Moon trade-up program, where within 12 months, you can get 100% of your purchase price back towards an upgraded model. So in this case, trade in your 681 towards a 791 or an 891 and pay only the difference between the two models. Add to that the fact that the entire North collection is built in Canada and comes with a 10-year manufacturer's warranty, and you've got a very impressive product that can be the center of your system for many years to come. As you can probably tell, we've been very impressed with the 681 and really the entire North collection from Simaudio. Very proud to have them here at the store and excited to see them getting the recognition that they really deserve with this award from the Absolute Sound. And so we're gonna have a lot more content coming out about their products in the near future. So make sure that you're subscribed if you're interested in those other products as well. If you want to experience the award-winning sound of the 681 or any of the North Series collection, come on down to HiFi Buys. We've got it all available here for demo. We even loan equipment out if you want to get really into it and hear how it'll sound in your system. And until then, enjoy the music.